Hey Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, and tonight I'm being joined by two gentlemen. James, will introduce you first. What's going on, James?
Not much. Pretty much just boring work week. Nothing really super important for me to bring up. Oh yeah, I got my Power Morphicon tickets. Going to be at the Anaheim Convention Center, the same place where Disney 230, 223, whatever it's called. You know, their convention's at every year. I think that they always have the Star Wars convention there. It's a pretty big area, so having the Power Ranger convention there is going to be awesome. I can't wait to be there with other Power Ranger fans. I got the Gold Pass, which means I got the VIP meet and greet, and I got the Lord Deacon. I think that's how I said Draken. No, it's Dracon. The Lord Draken figure, which is pretty much if Tommy never turned good at the end of season 1 and he stayed evil. He's a badass character from the comic series, and so having the action figure being exclusively at the convention, I had to pick it up. So yeah, I got that, and I'm all getting excited, and I just can't wait for the clock to go by another year so I could be at Power Morphicon 2018 with all of you guys. It's the 25th anniversary. It's gonna be an awesome time. Hope to see if you're the rest of you guys are Power Ranger fans, I hope to see you there.
And tonight I'm also being joined by Jan. What's going on, Jan?
Nothing much. I went to San Diego Comic-Con 2 weeks ago, and I had a lot of fun. I got some comics, and then I went camping with my friends last weekend, and wasn't able to shower for 3 straight days. And then the first shower I had, I felt like I was reborn. It was wonderful. And,
I know that feeling. I went hiking one day with my friends, and it was just my leg was just like all crusted with mud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was one day, and my arms and legs are all this mud. So when I sat in that shower, I have never felt that euphoric feeling ever again in a shower in my life.
No, it was wonderful. And then, of course, my one friend really wanted to go rain hiking. None of us wanted to go rain hiking, but 2 people, and then there were 9 of us there. So of course, the 2 people that wanted to go rain hiking bullied everybody into going rain hiking. So that made it even worse. But no, it was a lot of fun.
Jan, didn't your parents tell you to say no to peer pressure?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was out in the woods alone. I didn't want to be.
And I'm always one person that said peer pressure is shit because nobody can make you do what you don't want to do. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it.
Yeah, well,
that was always my philosophy in life. It's
it's either go hiking with my friends or sit in a rainy campsite on my own. So,
yeah.
All by myself.
Oh God! Don't sing that. Terry at work every fucking day sings that, and he's not even by himself. He just does it anyway to be annoying.
I was gonna say that's not even. I'm not even in the right key there. So.
Oh, he's even worse. He's like, all by myself. I want to be all by myself. That's him every day.
Also, I'm pretty sure I didn't sing enough to get us into copyright trouble. So, if I did, I'm sorry.
But anyways,
so tonight we're going to talk about Spider-Man, getting off of our stories about showering and camping. Tonight we're going to actually do some audio commentaries. We've been getting into this trend a little bit over the past few months, and we're going to continue it tonight with some more 90s animated series commentaries. This episode, we are going to tackle the first 2 episodes of Season 2, which are the Insidious 6 episodes, Insidious 6 and Battle of the Insidious 6, to give the correct titles.
Or as it's called on, Hulu, Neogenic Nightmare Chapter 1.
Yes, because this also, Season 2 is the beginning of a trend that the 90s show had of giving
there's 3 million names for every episode.
Giving each season its own long-running title and its own long-running theme. Season 2
even though it didn't match sometimes, Sins of the Father, the Spot had an episode in that arc.
Yeah,
what does this Spot have to do with Sins of the Father?
What does Doctor Strange have to do with Sins of the Father? What is... So, basically...
Well, see, John, Doctor Strange had a father.
Cool. So did
Mr. Strange.
So yeah, we are going to tackle the first 2 episodes of Season 2. If you have not, obviously we did not give you any advance notice about this, so we suggest you pause this episode and queue the episodes up on whatever platform you're using to watch them. I'm personally using the iTunes version. I know these 2 are using the Hulu versions, I think. So I'm hoping there's no discrepancy between them. If so, cool. But
so I'll just pretend that there isn't and just talk with you guys.
But
bullshit. Yeah, that was a good scene. I have no idea what you're talking about.
But yeah, so we're going to start with episode 1, and we will obviously give a countdown to that. So we're going to start episode 1 in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. play.
I think my TV's too loud. Let me turn it down a little bit.
I love this old 90s intro. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube where they do this intro, but they use like footage from all the movies kind of to make it like, I don't know, it's pretty fun.
Obviously, this is an Aerosmith. Joe Perry, Aerosmith, did this opening here.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Radioactive spider blood. I love this theme song. I always have.
I still remember when I was a kid when the show was airing, because obviously I'd never seen the 60s cartoon until years later when like ABC Family had like a Spider-Man Green Goblin marathon. They aired an episode of the 60s show. So I never heard actually Spider-Man does whatever. So I was wondering, why do people get the lyrics wrong? He's not saying that. It's saying radioactive Spider-Man.
So is this, I haven't talked to you guys about this show. Is this your guys' favorite Spider-Man cartoon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, yeah, it's hands down.
I think...
No, not, I would say hands down, because Spectacular is like, if Spectacular would have lasted more than 2 seasons, Spectacular probably would have passed this, I'm being honest.
I think like writing and animation-wise, I think Spectacular is a little better, but this is still a really awesome show. It's probably it's a close second for me. I don't have the nostalgia for it.
I think the biggest con with Spectacular is that it kind of like it got cut off. Like this cartoon got cut off too, but at least it went on for 5 years. Spectacular was like screwed over by a corporate buyout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, seeing as this is the first appearance of the Sinister Six, or the Insidious Six, as it's called in this cartoon, we have some callbacks in this episode to Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 1, which was the first appearance of the Sinister Six in the comics. And
the one saying Jan said he hated in ASM and Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, and these scenes right here that we're watching on the screen right now, Spider-Man losing his powers, there you go, right out of ASM Annual Number 1. And of course, Spider-Man falls into a dumpster because Parker Luck.
Wait, no, it had it set up for the censors that he landed in feathers.
I love all the gangsters in this scene. Like, a lot of them are famous gangsters from Marvel Comics. Like, you saw the Owl in one shot. I think
there's the Owl.
Doesn't Silvermane become, like, a villain of, like, a season? Or at least
and Hammerhead are in there, too. I just saw them.
Yeah, Silvermane's a villain in the Tablet of Time arc that's later in this season.
Okay, they actually use him, like, as a villain. Okay.
And then he comes back as Baby Silvermane in Season 4, which is awesome.
Oh, I remember that. I think I saw that as a kid. I haven't watched this whole show from the beginning to the end. I think when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, I was kind of gearing up for that, and I watched like the first 3 seasons, and then I think for whatever reason I kind of like dropped off, and then I tried to do that again for Homecoming this year, and I only made it through like 5 episodes, and then I like lost interest or had so much going on. I've had a busy summer, so
And of course, classic '90s technology. Little mini bug guy.
No, it's because they couldn't make it realistic.
So one thing I don't love the idea that Doc Ock isn't really the leader, it's the Kingpin. And Doc Ock is just kind of, I feel like it relegates his role a little bit.
Well, because I took it as they were trying to make Kingpin the main villain of the animated series.
They were. It becomes a little bit more ambiguous later in the series when it obviously becomes like more Norman Osborn because of what happens at the end of season 3. But it's like they're trying, like in the early seasons, they're trying to make Kingpin the main villain. But it's like towards the end, it's sort of like, well, sometimes it's Kingpin, sometimes it's Norman.
Yeah, I mean, Kingpin's a great villain, but he's a good Spider-Man villain, but I think he's probably like.
They let Shocker keep his costume.
Yeah, it's like
everybody else doesn't get to, but Shocker does.
Please.
I love the show's version of Mysterio.
I'm nothing without this suit. If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
And irony is Shocker's in that movie.
Yeah, there we go.
Tying it all in for movie fans.
Yep.
How did they escape? He does illusions. Oh yeah, there it is. They were not really gone. Okay. Mysterio's illusion caught me. It's been a while since I saw this episode.
I love Mysterio. So doesn't Chameleon like only talk when he's disguised as other people or something?
Yeah, Chameleon has that gimmick in this series.
Hey, look, it's crazy laser guns. Just like every 90s thing, because they can't have real guns.
But like I said, other shows, at least they tried to have these stuff make sense, like the lasers in the 90s. Like Power Rangers, I'll use this as an example. In season 2 is right when the censorship really cracked down on Power Rangers. They couldn't show no more low blows or kicks to the heads. So they introduced a new thing with the putties having the Lord ZZ on their chest. And that was their weak spot. Like punching, they already say, aim for the Z and that's their weak spot and they'll blow up. So you gave a reason so why they're no longer aiming for the head or the groin or the knees. They're aiming for the chest for that exact reason because that's the kill shot.
Mm-hmm.
This show was like, oh, they just have laser guns. Why? Don't mention it.
Why? Because.
Reasons. This is kind of a weird. Has this ever been the Sinister Six lineup in the comics?
Not that I know of. I can't.
It's because they replaced Kraven. That's what it is. Isn't that the only difference? Is
well,
like Kraven.
Well, I mean, they don't have Kraven. They didn't have Electro at this point in the show because of the James Cameron movie.
They don't have Vulture either.
Yeah, they don't have Vulture. It's like they basically the only ones in this lineup from the original Sinister Six are Doc Ock, Mysterio, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Wow, you're right.
Well, Scorpions was a member, wasn't he?
No.
Oh no, because Scorpion comes in issue 20, like 5 months later, doesn't he?
Yeah. So Doc Ock and Mysterio are literally the only ones who are original Sinister Six, which, I mean, they're just working with the villains that they'd already introduced on the show, so.
And, working this into movie connections earlier, both Shocker and Scorpion are on this team, and they had a scene together in Homecoming, and it looks like Scorpion's going to be our villain, at least probably at the beginning of that movie, so.
So is this the... Okay, other than Mysterio, because he was supposed to be in Spider-Man 4, but he never got in. Every other member of this team has now been at least in one Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I appreciate about the Spider-Man movies.
And technically it's been Daredevil movies, so I guess that can kind of count.
Chameleon hasn't been in a movie, so...
Alistair Smythe's been in a movie. He was in ASM 2.
Yep.
Rhino was in Spider-Man 2. Shocker. Oh, goddamn, Chameleon's on in a movie, too. Okay, there's 2 of them.
But that's what's cool about Spider-Man's movies, is that unlike Superman, where they've used the same... 2 characters over and over again.
Like Fantastic Four, how they're rebooting again, and they just announced that Doom's going to be the main villain.
Doom's getting his own movie.
Where with Spider-Man, like we've seen, they've actually, every Spider-Man movie has used a villain that hasn't been done before, which I think is kind of, even the ones that aren't good, like at least they're mining the comic books. Instead of like Superman, they just like redo the same, it's either Lex Luthor or General Zod.
Gotta love this shot right here of Spider-Man webbing up the newspaper and then he webs down a quarter. That's classic from the comics.
Well, did you ever hear the story about how the scripts came? Like they had one of the Marvel artists always draw like a comic book cover, like in the style like a classic 60s or 70s issue of Spider-Man.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think it was John Semper who actually, I don't know, maybe I'm attributing that quote wrong, but
no, I think it was him because he also mentions about how they had like a literally long boxes full of every Spider-Man comic up to that point.
Yeah, I mean this show I've always said is probably the most faithful to the comics.
I think Spectacular more so.
Spectacular, I wouldn't really say Spectacular now they added elements from Ultimate, they added elements from the movies. This was 100% other than the 60s cartoon and Amazing Friends. That was it. Oh, yeah, and the 70s show that nobody remembers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The 70s show has a clone episode in it, though. So,
Which is not the Clone Saga, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's also the same episode where they call Uncle Ben Uncle Max. Talk about not being continuity.
That, well, I don't know. I think Spectacular, for me, captures the... No, that's not true. I don't know. I think these shows both...
Was Aunt May always a blonde? Because I know in the movies she's always like a dark haired girl that hair went gray.
In Ultimate, she's dark haired that went gray.
Because here she's blonde, or is it just like artistic licensing of making sure you didn't just see white hair?
I think it's this is the only time I've ever seen Aunt May blonde.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean,
and then
like,
Dr.
It doesn't bother me. It's like, to be honest, James, it was really the first time I noticed it, I think.
No, that's what I mean. I just noticed it. It's like, hey, is Aunt May blonde in the series?
Hey, there's Morbius. Isn't that Morbius?
Morbius.
Yeah, I think it's later on at the end of the season he becomes Morbius, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in episode 6 of season 2.
Oh, so that's not even that far from this.
And
This
of
is
course, you can see.
Felicia, because this is all when Felicia Hardy on the show was literally the bed. She was the village bicycle. Everyone had a ride in the show.
Isn't that Deb Whitman?
Yeah, that's Deb Whitman. She's
one of my favorite Spider-Man characters.
Deb Whitman, just because of the way she looks and being the science chick when I read Carly Cooper in the comics, because Deb was off the books when I got in the books. But Carly, just because she kind of looks and acts like Deb from the series, I give her, in my head when I read it, it's Deb's voice from this cartoon.
Yeah, I have that exact same thing, James.
Me too. I'll throw my name in there. Well, actually, for me, I always think of Carly Cooper as being Gwen from Spectacular Spider-Man.
I'm sorry, every time I see Morbius, it's like he's trying to be like the 90s goth, like, crow, trench black coat, and he has like a Tommy Wiseau voice. Oh, hi, Peter. What's going on with you today, Peter? Huh? How's your sex life? Huh?
James, I don't think the "how's your sex life" comment would have gotten past the censors.
No, it's if Tommy Wiseau voiced Morbius.
Yeah, they couldn't even say Sinister. It wouldn't have gotten past the censors.
I love how I love Peter's.
Parker, how is your dating life? Huh? Is that better?
I love Peter's line of, Felicia's like, so what B movie did he come from? And Peter says, The Revenge of Dracula's ego. I love that line.
So how would you guys rank your top 3 like Spider-Man voice actors?
Like I said, it's similar to Batman. How every time I watch a comic read a comic, I hear the voice of the '90s show, unless it's a character that wasn't in it. The Spider-Man show he's my Peter Parker voice.
Christopher Daniel Barnes every day.
It's weird though. If I'm reading the '60s stuff, I hear the '60s series. I think it's because of the time period. So when I'm reading that stuff, I hear the '60s. But from the college days on up, I hear the voices from here. I even get Gwen, because of the 2 episodes she's in the finale. I got a voice for Gwen in my head when I right here. You know what I mean?
What about Ultimate, James? Like, what do you hear when you hear Ultimate? Since I can't really imagine Christopher Daniel Barnes is that version.
I hear the video game voices.
That's fair. For me, it'd be Josh Keaton is my number 1. Just because I think Spectacular is my personal favorite Spider-Man adaptation in general. And
like
then
I said,
he's the one I hear.
Like I said, it's the college years on up. I hear the '90s show voices. I think it's because that's what the cartoon was. It was the college age, Peter Parker.
I think Josh Keaton's my favorite because he's the one that I can see being casted as like every version. Like I think he works as like an Ultimate Spider-Man. He works as the Stanley Steve Ditko Spider-Man. I think he works as like college age. Like I
can't think of his name right now, but the one from Amazing Friends. Like I hear him and I always hear I think he's too old to play as Peter Parker.
Dan Gilvezan.
I think he's perfect if they did like a adaptation of like Spider-Girl or Renew Your Vows, Peter, where he's older.
Yeah,
he's perfect. But for like college age, I wouldn't hear his voice at all.
So there's an interesting story with Scorpion here. He was played by Martin Landau, who was kind of a famous character actor who was working a lot in the 90s. And then Martin Landau, he won an Oscar for the movie that Tim Burton made about Ed Wood. And then Martin Landau became too expensive, so then they recasted Scorpion as Richard Mole, who voices Two-Face in the Batman animated series. So I don't know in this episode if it was Martin Landau or Richard Mole, but I know that at some point...
We'll find out during the end credits.
Yeah, we'll find out. If I'm really curious, I guess I could Google it. But.
You know one thing I did not always when I was a kid? It's a pet peeve. I'll admit it's a pet peeve. Every time I watch this episode when I was a kid, I never liked the whole idea that they were wearing headsets.
The villains?
Yeah.
Bro, what was it about it, James? Was it just like it broke?
Because I think it's mostly because they were taking orders from Kingpin, and I just don't see the 6 of them doing it. I see them like, thanks for breaking this out. Sure, we'll kill Spider-Man, but it's really for themselves. It has nothing to do with Kingpin.
Yeah, I think one thing that Spectacular handled a little better was I think the Sinister Six was really well done in that show. And I think here, like, them just being Kingpin's lackeys, I'm not a huge fan of that.
I never liked how Spectacular handled Doc Ock. How they made him a joke, and then he just, like, randomly, like, oh, I'm evil now. You know what I mean?
I think
they were trying to go with the movie, the sympathetic Doc Ock, but then they went, once he became Doc Ock, they went full-blown comic book Doc Ock. Like, where he's irredeemable.
I like Doc Ock in that. Like, he's my favorite Doc Ock ever. Like, I hear him in the comics when I read Doc Ock. Like, he just sounds perfect to me. But Peter McNichol, who voices Doc Ock in that show, he's one of my favorite actors overall. So maybe that's it. I'm a huge fan of his work in, like, 24, and he's been one.
Like I said, I just didn't like it about how he went from being like, oh, don't call me Dr. X. You know what I mean? He's kind of whiny, you know, simpling coward. And then, like, I get it, the whole idea that now he's Doc Ock. You know, he's power and he's power hungry. But he went way too much to classic now. The die has been cast. Oh.
It didn't bother me. I thought it worked pretty well for what they did.
Oh, look, we get a recap of the origin again.
I think... No, I was gonna say, isn't this the first time we've seen the origin of the show? But no, they did it in the Mysterio episode in season 1.
What's cool about
yeah, because we don't see the part where they adapt him everything. So I like how they make Connors being the dick guy from ASM 15. It's like Parker has a weak stomach when it comes to radioactivity. They make it Connors in the animated series because they have nobody else to be a scientist.
There's one scientist in New York City, and it's Kurt Connors.
I love
Florida.
I love this voice actor for Doc Ock.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., I think.
Yeah, he's my second favorite Doc Ock after the Spectacular one. Like, he's really good.
How do you guys feel about Chameleon having like a Power Rangers morpher to transform?
I love it.
It's Chameleon less useless than he normally is.
I love this. This is what I always wanted Chameleon to be in the comics. This is why I never liked to Ditko Chameleon, because I was always like,
this belt buckle thing. I think he had it in the 80s or the 70s, didn't he?
He had it in the 90s. Yeah.
Am I the only one who doesn't care much for Chameleon?
I always hate this cliche that, you know, the things like that, the Ninja Turtles are like that. You know, oh, if we were a trench coat and a hat, nobody can recognize us.
Do you guys like Chameleon or not? Like, I'm not a huge fan of that character in general.
What character?
Chameleon.
My whole thing with Chameleon is always like he's the first villain.
Yeah, like, I think...
And that's where it ends with me.
He works better as a Captain
America. Every time I read a Spider-Man, like a run of Spider-Man, I get to the Chameleon issue, I groan because, like, oh, I got to sit for now. She's going to impersonate Spider-Man or Aunt May or Mary Jane, and then it's going to cause, you know, problems for Parker's life that's all going to be fixed by the end of the comic, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's one of the few villains that I'd be perfectly fine if he never appears in a movie. Like, a lot of them, like, even someone like Big Wheel, I think would be funny in a movie. Like, Chameleon, like, I don't think he'd be that exciting or
the best Chameleon thing ever that I love, you know, when I read it for the first time, I heard about it before, like, on, I think, a different podcast, but then when I finally read it, I'm like, yeah, that is a good scene, is when he died in the 90s, and, like, Mary Jane knew when he was impersonating Peter. Yeah, which is kind of retcon. It ruins Superior because she noticed in 2 seconds it's not Peter, because he's like in the house and he's like, so Peter, how was your day? He goes, oh, I had a fight with the Chameleon. He was such a challenge. After all, he is my greatest villain. And then she immediately hit him over the head with a baseball bat because she knew that one line, he's my greatest villain, meant bullshit.
James, it's almost like Chameleon, or no, it's almost like a Superior is just a fundamentally poorly written comic.
Oh, it is. I will always say.
And here we go, gentlemen. The Aunt May Doc Ock relationship.
Oh, Jesus.
Thing that I always hated, and thank God the Raimi movie had her not like Octopus and think he's not a gentleman. Because I could not sit for a movie where this shit happens. I'm telling you that right now.
I think him kidnapping her in that one bank robbery scene was like their hint at it, though.
No, because she says shame on you, and she hits him with the umbrella.
No, I know. I'm not saying that they're, but just the fact that Doc Ock the fact that Doc Ock and Aunt May are in a scene together was them kind of winking like they have a history. Like, it wasn't like they're just kind of going like, hey, like.
I always hated this. Like, it happens here too, where in the original comic where Betty's like, we've been kidnapped. These guys tried to kill me and killed my brother a few issues ago. Oh no, he's lovely. He's letting me watch the Beverly Hillbillies. What? What?
Yeah, that was stupid.
And then there's like this one issue, I want to say it's in the 70s, but I think it was when Gwen was still alive, so it may have been 60s, where literally everybody and their dog are telling her Doc Ock is evil.
Yeah, it's like 115. Yeah, it's like 115 or something. It's that Hammerhead arc.
Jameson even says he's evil. Jameson even says he's worse than a menace than Spider-Man, and she doesn't believe him.
Looks like a demon. Look at that. Oh my God. Aunt May she like becomes like the Ditko Aunt May, where she was a terrible character.
I hated that stuff. Every time I read Aunt May and when she doesn't know the secret. Like, now they kind of changed that where they thank God she doesn't know the secret, but she's not acting that way. But I hated that Aunt May, where she is, like, gullible to think that Doc Ock's the good guy. He has been on television fighting to blow up the planet with nukes before. How do you still think he's a good guy? You know what I mean? He used you to try to marry you to blow you up on an island because he wanted your inheritance money. And you still think he's the good guy.
That was quick. So let's episode 2.
Jan, are you done already?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess James and I are a minute behind you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because literally Aunt May just changed.
Okay, mine must go faster or something. I'm not watching this through Hulu, so
Okay, but that is the end of episode 1 for James.
Sorry about that.
For James and I now, but so
sorry about that.
I just want to keep on saying that. I just hate Aunt May.
I love Ultimate Aunt May. I love JMS's Aunt May, and I like what I saw of the Aunt May in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far.
I like Aunt May when she's written well, which is when Bendis wrote her in Ultimate, when JMS wrote her, and when you see her in the movies, because she is that kind of mother figure to him in all the movies. Tomei, Rosemary, whatever her name is from the original movies, Sally Fields, they all were, the mother figure to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now we're going to move on to...
I can't stand the 60s and 70s, 80s, where she's like, Spider-Man is a menace! Doc Ock, the one you love, just trying to blow up New York with a nuclear bomb. Oh, no, he explained it away that it was actually Spider-Man. What?
Now we're going to move on to episode 2. So we're going to start episode 2 right at 0 minutes, 0 seconds, everything like that. So we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... play.
Previously on Spider-Man.
Falling into a dumpster of feathers again.
We talked about, you guys both think Christopher Daniel Barnes is your favorite Spider-Man, like, voice actor. Who's your second favorite?
Oh, Spectacular, hands down.
Okay. And then for me, my third is probably Neil Patrick Harris.
I like his voice. Not Neil Patrick, I'm talking about Spectacular. Because Neil Patrick, I just never seen him as Peter Parker, you know what I mean?
I guess, yeah.
But I like the voice from Spectacular, but if I don't hear Christopher Daniel Barnes, like I said, it's either I'm reading a Dick Hill thing from the 60s and I hear the 60s show, or I hear Toby. Because Toby, again, is another guy who I see classic 80s Spider-Man.
Oh, I don't see Toby as Peter Parker, like, at all. But whatever. I don't care for his portrayal. I'll take Tom Holland every day, all day.
Jan is a bigger Tom Holland fan than I am an Andrew Garfield fan.
I don't know. He's just like he walked on screen in Civil War, and I'm like, that's Peter Parker. Like, who are these other two guys I've been living with for 15 years? This guy is Peter Parker. But
it's basically like, where have you been all my life?
See, I always say Toby is a great Peter, not a great Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's a great Spider-Man, not a great Peter Parker. Tom Holland's the first guy who I can actually say great Peter Parker and great Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and the thing for me, I think, with Toby, because we're not watching a cartoon or anything, but the thing for me with Toby is that he's a great Peter Parker, but I think without Spider-Man, like Spider-Man needs to have those two sides to, like, work. If you have Peter Parker, he starts to...
Toby's whole thing is you see him in Pleasantville, he's able to do comedy. And you see in the few quips he has in the movies, they're good quips. The problem was the script tried to be a serious superhero movie with them.
Yeah. Like, in the video games, he delivers the jokes pretty well, like, that he got to do.
And there's Chameleon, disguised as a nurse, trying to...
How many times these two episodes he's been disguised as a woman? I think he just likes cross-dressing now. Hey, there were hints in the comics for years that he's gay, so it fits.
Yeah. Oh, is that a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Because in that issue where he dies with the Mary Jane thing, when he commits suicide, he goes, "When I first met you, you called me a commie because."
Oh my God, you're right.
And then he goes, "But I was in love with you," and that's when he kills himself.
Wasn't that written by Paul Jenkins?
I think so.
Yep. I love his run on Spider-Man. He did a great job.
And of course, there's
But then again, because he did fake his death, maybe it was just like mind games just to fuck with Spider-Man. I guess you can retcon that as.
So I love
because he did bang Michelle, and I don't care what they say now, Marvel. Oh, they just kissed. The implication is when he's taking off her clothes and she's giggling as he's making out with her neck and giving her a hickey is they're banging. I'm sorry, Marvel.
So of these villains, what do you guys think of like this show's take on some of these characters? Like I really like Doc Ock.
I like them because they're classic. They're like when you read the comics compared to the show, it's very hard to find a villain who's not like their comic counterpart in at least some small way.
Yeah.
Like Electro, I think it's the one who's the most, but that's because he kind of got fucked over because of the James Cameron movie putting an embargo on the character for so long.
Yeah, I really like. I don't love that they're the Kingpin's lackeys, as I said before, but I really like Doc Ock. I think this might be my favorite Mysterio. Like, I love the origin story that like Spider-Man put Quentin back out of work or whatever by like bursting in and stuff. I really
like every villain is exactly like how when you read a comic, it's like they might be a little bit more like they can't kill, so they're not as bloodthirsty, but you see Mysterio in this show, he's Mysterio in the comics. You see Doc Ock, he's Doc Ock. You see Kingpin, he's Kingpin. You see Silvermane, he's Silvermane. You know what I mean? He like Hobgoblin, it's Jason Philip McIndale, but he acts a whole lot like Kingsley in these issues.
Yeah,
you know
I freaking love Jason Philip McIndale.
I love when John got all giddy when I pointed out that in Clone Conspiracy that the living Hobgoblin had to be McIndale, and how giddy he got by the whole thought of McIndale just because of the cartoon.
James, it's the little things in life. You gotta appreciate the little things.
And I do love how I don't know if you guys ever caught this, but I think I told this to John. In that first Hobgoblin arc with Dan Slott back in Big Time, they bring up the line, there's no profit to be made in my own annihilation. Slott wrote that line in with Phil Europe, where Europe saves somebody from the Bugle, and he goes, because there's no profit to be made in my own annihilation. That's the only reason why I saved Randy Robinson.
And of course,
the only reason I did it because there's no profit to be made in my own annihilation. And when I read that line, I'm like, somebody's been watching the '90s show, Dan.
Kind of referencing what's happening on the screen right now. We can also see that this is kind of referencing Amazing Spider-Man 12 right now because Peter Parker's unmasked and Doc Ock is the one who does it, but they don't believe him because he doesn't really have his powers.
Which I love in Civil War when they dealt with that, where Doc Ock, calls, and I think it's in Friendly Neighborhood or maybe it was Spectacular, where they actually had an issue where Doc Ock dealt with it, and he's like, "I took off your mask then, but you were a kid."
I like the Shocker. I think he's pretty fun in this show. My favorite version of the Shocker is from. This is going to sound really weird, but I think the first Spider-Man movie game. I think that was my favorite Shocker. Like I think the voice actor there was really menacing. But he's really
part about that game with Shocker was the whole Spider-Man name, trying to guess his name by where he looks.
Cushion.
He's like, "What are you, Quilt Man, Apple
Cushion.
Pie Man, or how about this, the Cushion?"
Yeah.
Like Toby quit more in the movie games than he ever did in the movies.
Yeah. I don't love Silvermane's voice in this show. He sounds kind of annoying.
Well, he's supposed to be that grouchy old man.
I like the Spectacular voice was better. He was played by an actor who died recently. He played the guy in RoboCop, and he also played the Weather Wizard in the DC animated universe.
And here, of course, we have Alistair Smythe, one of my all-time favorite villains from this show. Never questioned Alistair Smythe on his trajectories.
He just like rolls in there. He doesn't do anything like particularly.
He doesn't need to. Jan. His presence does everything.
Yeah. Alistair Smythe. I'm not going to say that. Never mind. I'll tell you guys after the show.
I love how Aunt May never calls out the fact that this is the same Doc Ock who supposedly Peter went to summer camp every fucking year with.
Yeah. Was Mysterio?
He brings up in the Doc Ock origin. Aunt May Uncle Ben used to send me to Otto Octavius science summer camp every summer.
I will also say that pretty much every Alistair Smythe joke I've ever made is not my own. I've taken them from other people, so I hold no ownership of those.
I love how Mysterio is just like the lamp or whatever.
Yeah. I think I'm ahead of you guys.
I just imagine like the lamp laughing, like giggling whenever Aunt May's in the room, and she's like, "What was that?"
James,
and she turns away, and all of a sudden he goes, "Ooh."
Did that happen?
Jan,
Otto literally just bought. Oh yeah, that's the illusion. I'm about to say, Otto literally just buy a building just to put his sign on there.
Jan, we're at the scene where Hammerhead's walking into Silvermane's headquarters.
Okay, we're good. Oh, Rhino on a helicopter. That happens that should have been done in ASM2. Paul Giamatti should have hung from a helicopter in his Rhino suit. Just for me, I would have gotten a laugh.
Only in the movie for 5 minutes.
Is that shot of him in the helicopter is in the opening credits, so I've probably seen that shot 100 times of him on the helicopter. What's their plan again? Are they trying to take over?
They're trying to piss off Silvermane.
Okay. It's a gang war. They're trying to get power to be the kingpin of crime.
It's really weird. I've been reading Spider-Man and stuff. Obviously I've been reading Spider-Man, but reading Spider-Man, there's a lot of gang war storylines in his history. That's the thing that happens.
Almost he's always been more street level. He's the most mainstream street level hero Marvel got. The only other one below him is Daredevil.
Yeah. And the movies have never really done a gang war story.
Because it's a movie, I can see their point. You want to go more grandiose.
Yeah, it's a gang war in a Spider-Man movie isn't going to bring you the spectacle that you want.
But the Homecoming was.
If you had it a B plot, like they're using supervillains as their, they're using them as their muscle, then you can probably get away with it. But at the same time, I can't see it the same movie where it's all just Silvermane and Kingpin trying to shoot each other out while Spider-Man's caught in the middle. I can't see that.
Well, it looks like the video game next year is going to be a gang war because it looks like Kingpin and Mr. Negative have.
Yeah, but a movie and a video game are two very different things, Jan.
But I mean, to counter your point, in Homecoming, the main plot was him just trying to stop some criminals from stealing technology, and that was still a very
but technology ended up being dark and alien tech.
Yes, super high tech alien stuff with a flying high tech vulture suit, Jan.
You could do gang war with supervillains like they're doing right here, and it would have the Sinister Six, and I think you could make it work.
Right this way, guy who's wearing Spider-Man boots.
Yeah, it's seriously, yeah. I've never bought this. I'm just what?
Like I said, I hated how every 90s cartoon or comic book did this, where it's if we wear a trench coat, nobody can see that we're green-skinned or rock, or you know what I mean?
I think that's a 90s thing in general, because I've been watching the TV show
No,
Angel.
It's the 60s, too, because there's a Hulk issue where Hulk's flying off to fight some monster in, Nevada, and he's on the plane, and the lady's just "More coffee, Mr. Banner?" And he raises his head, and she just sees the Hulk head finally. Nobody notices before it's all, and she's just screaming, the Hulk's on the plane, eep! And she faints, and he literally jumps off the plane, but the suction doesn't kill everybody. It's weird. He just literally opens the door and jumps out. He's bye.
And it's Doc Ock just literally bursts his tentacles out of his trench coat, and I'm really? How'd you fit all those in there?
How did he do it in the movies?
Exactly. So does Peter, does he not have his powers right now?
No, his powers are glitching in and out because of, neogenics and stuff.
Better than being so whiny that you forget that your powers are there or imagine them going away. Just saying.
Jan is one of the only Spider-Man fans who doesn't like Spider-Man 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I like Spider-Man 2. I just don't buy that subplot. I just think it's not a perfect movie people
never got this with Peter in this episode. I get it, you're trying to keep your secret identity of the whole fact of why Spider-Man comes to save you, but they're going to kill the guy who tells Spider-Man to leave. It's a trap.
Yeah, it's you're really not. It
kind of reminds me of that Betty Brant thing where he's in the car with the enforcers, and he's Peter Parker, and he's breakable. I already saw what the big man was. I know who it is. I use my science, mathematics to figure out who it is. So they kidnap him, and he's in the car, and he's on a long car ride to meet the big man. And it's remember that? And he's all talking about, yeah, all I gotta do is find a way to sneak out and get my Spider-Man suit. I'll say that. It's Peter, they're mobsters, enforcers.
Yeah.
How do you know that you're not just gonna immediately go in the car and they're gonna blow your brains out? I mean, granted, you have the spider sense, but if they just pull their gun out and shoot you, you're dead.
Does this '90s show ever do the Enforcers?
No.
Man, I love the Enforcers.
You and Kingpin.
I love the Enforcers. They're personal.
I don't think Enforcers until like what? Spectacular. I think that's still the only cartoon appearance they ever had. Like I don't even think the '60s show had them, which is weird. Like at their height,
Montana's in Homecoming, but not to others.
Yeah, Montana's killed though.
Yeah, but he's still there, and he's Shocker, so it's kind of a nod to Spectacular.
I do love that scene where like he calls him all like he's a wrestler. Ooh, you're the Shocker. You shock people. Because there's a wrestler in the '90s, and then I swear this has got to be a reference to that, who was called the Shock Master, and he was like the worst wrestling gimmick ever. I'll show you guys a YouTube link to it. His first appearance, he's supposed to like jump through a brick wall, like style at Ric Flair's house, like style of like Kool-Aid Man, like badass epic, like he just pounds through the wall. He trips over and his helmet falls off. I'll give you it. It's like one of the biggest bloopers in wrestling history. I'll give you guys like the link after it.
I don't love this version of Rhino. He's a little, I don't know.
I think he's perfect. Like I think he's.
I kind of like I give Aunt May shit about the whole, subplot with Doc Ock, but I'll forgive Silverman because Peter has never interacted. Aunt May, she kind of doesn't have an excuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I love this show might be my favorite. It's either this show or the MTV show. It might be my favorite version of Spider-Sense in portraying that. Like I love the crazy like flashes that they show. I don't think that's a power that's hard to portray visually. And in some cases, like Homecoming, they just decided not even to really show it and just kind of imply that it was there. But here, like I really like the weird. And the new cartoon in those clips they released online did a cool job too. But I don't know, I love and like his eyes turn green or whatever. Like it's pretty cool.
I just have to toss out the garbage. That's a quote from the episode for those of you who aren't listening to it.
No, but I just love how he's just like, man, I actually won. It's a classic Parker. Like, I actually won today. I saved this sweet old man. He's like one of the worst mobsters in New York.
Oh, does Peter think he's innocent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all he knows is that Kingpin and them are after this old guy.
Remember how we were talking last episode how Shocker keeps his costume? Even when his costume blows up, he still keeps the mask on.
Yeah.
It's almost like they didn't have an idea what, like, the comics never told them what Herman Schultz looked like. It's like, fuck it, he's wearing the suit.
And they were too lazy to make him look like just a blonde, like just like a generic brunette or blonde-haired guy.
Dude, doesn't you see Shocker like in his first appearance though, don't you?
No, but it's almost like they never bothered to do that with him in this episode.
Yeah. Wasn't he first introduced in the Venom arc in this show?
Yeah, the iconic, this Spider-Man plays for it keeps.
This is why they call me the Shocker.
I think those 3 episodes are by far the best of the show. Of what I've seen, at least. But I've heard the quality in the later seasons goes downhill a little bit.
I gotta point this out though. You can't show weapons with Scorpion's tail, but acid, that's A-okay.
And you can also show a helicopter flying recklessly through New York City where it could easily crash into a building and could...
John, this is pre-9/11.
No, but I'm just like...
Did Silverman just say something to those little kids?
What are you talking about?
Because before 9/11, nobody thought that you were gonna that villains were gonna in real life gonna crash planes into towers.
But even still, James, it's like the sensors are so strict. You would think they would prevent something like that.
But like I said, it's the same Fox sensors that let Power Rangers Megazords crash in the buildings. So obviously not, because they were like, well, then we gotta do it for Power Rangers. Well, no, we don't really want to do that to Power Rangers. It's one of our highest rated shows. Okay, then we'll let Spider-Man get away with it.
And then, of course, it's not Fox, but there's that scene in the Smallville episode, like in one of the later seasons, where Clark Kent like burns down 2 towers with his heat vision while angry rock music plays.
But that's post 9/11. That's directly what they're referencing. The truth, justice, and the American way doing that. You know what I mean? That's what they're directly going for. This is kind of like just innocent fun because they never thought in a million years something like that would ever happen in the real world.
Yeah.
It's like, just watch Power Rangers Time Force, where literally like 75% of the episodes from the original airings in 2001 are now edited, and those are the only copies you get now because they edited out everything after the terror attack. Because the main villain was a time terrorist whose plot was to blow up the past.
So does Doc Ock appear that much beyond this episode?
Yeah, he's got like major episodes like in season 3.
They got the Aunt May stuff. You still got to go for more of.
I've seen one where where Peter loses his memory. And Doc Ock, like they kind of combine the Kid Who Collected Spider-Man and the story with
the world's most annoying taxi driver. Spider-Man will save us.
Yeah, that one. Like they combine those two stories into one.
I don't know karate, but I know crazy. I apologize if that was wildly racist.
No. Well, it was, but you were impersonating something else, so it's okay.
You were impersonating something for being racist, so that's okay, because you're calling it out for being racist.
Yeah.
And again, here's the Parker lock. Dan Slott watches this cartoon and learn a thing or two.
This Peter
Parker ran out on the date because he had to stop the Insidious 6. And then because of that, he screwed up the date with the hot blonde chick he wanted to bang, and instead the Tommy Wiseau wannabe ended up being her boyfriend. That's the Parker luck.
Can I say? Okay, I'm not gonna. I'll tell you after. Never mind.
I'm sorry, he's Tommy Wiseau. Is Tommy Wiseau the voice of this guy? I mean, literally, it's Tommy Wiseau.
I think I'm like way ahead of you guys, man. Is Peter at Dr. Connors' thing right now?
No,
like, is he?
Peter's hugging Aunt May right now.
Well, Aunt May talked about how much of a badass he is.
Mine just must be going faster for some reason. I'm sorry.
Jan, don't rush through life.
And here's the reason why here's the reason why I will always say, no matter what Marvel says, you can never say that Mary Jane is just a girlfriend now. Because this show and the Raimi film, she is cemented as she's his Lois Lane.
Yep.
You can't backtrack now and say, he was just in a relationship with her for 30 years on and off in the comics and marriage, but now he can be sleeping on with Carly and Felicia and that one chick that, Parker Industries that I still to the life of me can't remember her name to save my own life, or Mockingbird.
Oh, Christ, the Mockingbird thing.
But who's the name of the chick? So I don't want to say the Asian chick, because that sounds racist, so I just want to say they did chick he was with in Parker Industries.
I don't remember her name either, James. I'm sorry. Leanne Tang. That's what her name is.
Literally, when we're reviewing those issues, Jan, I cannot remember. I just keep on saying the girl or her and stuff like that. And then John has to remind me, he goes, just read your comic. It's right in front of you. I'm like, I don't even want to look at the panels right now, John.
All right, well, that's those 2 episodes done with. Final thoughts, gentlemen?
They're fun. I didn't watch them that much because I was talking to you guys, but they're good. I still prefer the Sinister Six from the Spectacular, but I think the
Jan,
I like how they combine a bunch of.
Jan, there's no comparison there because that's the Sinister Six. This is the Insidious Six, 2 different groups.
Okay, whatever, but you know what I mean. I like it. I think this show is really good at capturing that classic like Spider-Man feel. I don't know. I always get nostalgia for the show, so I like it.
James, final thoughts?
Again, these are good episodes. I really enjoy them. It's a classic cartoon. We made fun of some of the elements. Like the second episode is very much just Spider-Man saves the day. That's why we kind of went on a tangent, with other topics, because it's very much just, hey, remember this is like that one scene from that one issue, and then we talk about all the stuff on that issue. Yeah. It's very much just Spider-Man saves the day. The Aunt May stuff, I'm sorry, even when this show does it, I just can't stand idiot Aunt May who thinks Doc Ock's a good guy. And Hulu is starting up for me the next episode from the season, which is the Hydro Man thing, which still to this day, I was really disappointed when I first read Hydro Man comics and he had no relation to Mary Jane whatsoever in the comics.
I know, James. I know exactly how you feel with that.
Yeah, me too. Hydro Man
it seems so natural that her boyfriend would come back to get her and kill Peter. You know what I mean?
All right, my final thoughts on these 2 episodes. They're good episodes. Strong intro for the Insidious 6. The name change is still, arbitrary, but whatever. It doesn't bother me that much. I prefer the second episode, I'll admit. The second episode I just think is just mindless fun, and I just love it for that.
Yeah, me too.
But the first episode has its merits, definitely. It's just a very much a part 1 episode, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's
sets up the plot.
yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about. So, James, final shout-outs or words for the listeners before we sign off?
Just what I said, Paramorphicon, football season started to begin. We just had the Hall of Fame game. So go Packers. I think their first preseason game is this Thursday or Friday, sometime on that. Besides for that, I have nothing really I really want to talk about this week, so I'll just shout it out to you guys now.
Jan, final shout-outs?
Well, I just want to say I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but I did see the new Spider-Man cartoon at Comic-Con, and I think going with tempered expectations, I think a lot of the fans will think it's pretty good. I don't know. They feel like they're trying, and I think it captured the classic Spider-Man tone. So, I don't know. That was cool, and I'm pretty excited for the Flash and Defenders to start this year. I think Defenders is in like 2 weeks, and the Flash is in like 9 weeks, and I don't know. I'm just excited to have my shows back. So there you go.
My shout-outs, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, everyone involved in the 90s show. Thank you for Spider-Man. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. So next week, some of us will be back. I don't know if I don't know if all of us will. I don't know. But we'll talk about ASM 31, Ben Riley, number 5 for James. I think it's number 5.
I'll do 2, I guess.
And yeah. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.